I mean, can anyone share their knowledge on depreciation? Anybody know what it is? I got a bunch of blank faces, so.
So it loses value.
So what do we normally depreciate? Let's say if we buy a duplex, how do we depreciate that out?
Wear and tear.
27.5 years, straight line.
There we go. So yes, but
It's the
but
on-paper
amount of
loss.
time. It's a paper loss, right? The building's really not gonna turn to dust at 27.5 years, right? We can get a tax benefit and depreciate that building over 27 years. There's something different, we'll talk a little bit about it more later, about something called what we call accelerated depreciation. So we speed up that process from 27.5 years to 4 years or 5 years, some other term. Okay, so, and as realtors, we may get added benefit for that because we're in full-time real estate. Quarterly distributions are pretty common. Sometimes you get monthly, but pretty often, more often than not, it's quarterly distributions on passive. The stable, multifamily real estate is stable. You know, we gotta live somewhere, right? So even if this market turns, or when this market turns, as it is now, we still need somewhere to live. Commercial real estate found out in a really bad way, right? Office space is no longer necessary in a lot of places. You know, people are working from home. My daughter-in-law makes really good money working from home, actually, and my sister-in-law does also. They're both making over, I think, $75,000 a year. They said they work from home. They don't have to go into an office every day. So that office space, I'm not sure I would be buying office space right now. It might scare me a little bit. And then operational, you know, multifamily, you can begin to expand and increase much more rapidly than you can one house at a time. This gives you a little bit of an idea of some options. You can do single family, some multifamily, what they call plexes, you know, duplex, triplex, fourplex, that kind of thing. Larger scale multifamily. What kind of units would you like to have in order to have an on-site property manager where you don't want to be there and having to deal with all that extra work? You want someone on-site. You have an idea of how many units you would have to have? You guys your hand up.
Yeah, 5 or more.
On site, so yeah, well, 5 or more is commercial, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the multifamily or larger scale multifamily, but you really want units in excess of 75 doors in order to have the ability to pay someone to manage it or be on site. Even then, it's questionable. So if it's at a higher end market, if you're up in San Francisco, you can probably do it with 45 units, right? Because everybody's paying $3,500 a month for a one bedroom. Hold on one sec. Let me, never mind. I can do that later. I was going to hand off my phone. So it's really about how much rent can you collect. And there's a number too, like that number's about the same for a pool. You don't want to have a 40 unit and have a pool generally. Even, you know, it's just not, the maintenance and stuff doesn't make sense. So we have 100 units now in New Mexico. And we don't need it yet, but we're looking at doing an on-site property manager. We have an on-site maintenance person there now, but we're working on our third one at the moment. The first 2 didn't work. So 50-unit apartment building versus single-family homes, a fourplex, that kind of thing. I'm actually going to have a percentage we're going to show. I'm going to ask you guys to do some math. I know you didn't come here to do math, but we're going to do that. So if you're learning, if you have a fourplex or even 4 single families and 1 unit is vacant, it's 25% vacant, right? Or if you have 1 home, you're either 100% occupied or 100% vacant. So I know the fourplex I had a few years ago, we had 1 tenant go bad. They stopped paying. They were there for 2 months before we had our court date with no rent. And then she got BOSTA, if any of you are familiar with a local attorney that represents tenants. Then we had to go to court. She sued us. And it took about 6 months before we had that unit rent ready again. So we lost 5.5 months or so of rent, not to mention the attorney fees and all the other stuff and costs that we had to do. We lost enough money on that 1 rental for that property, that 4 units, to not be profitable for a year. So it wiped us out. So small stuff is more difficult in a lot of ways because just as a percentage. If we lose 10 properties on a 50 unit, it's still only 20% empty. It's still only 20% vacant, right? So if we can get 50 units, all the better. Why we'll talk about this a little bit more, but I'm gonna ask the question now. Why do you not own a 50-unit apartment? Why do you think that is? Everybody in here should own a 50-unit, right? Or 150. I see Jessica shaking her head, yes, she wants a 150-unit, right?
Yeah.
Why have you not done that?
Why don't I have it?
Why haven't you done that?
I'm broke.
Keyshawn's honest, I like that, Brian.
I think we don't have to.
It's actually more than the broke, it's the skill.
Yeah.
So you gotta have the skills so that you know how to do it,
Yeah.
and you can do it being broke, believe it or not. So there's ways to do that. So if you're active, you own a property, the property management company manages everything. You hire a management company, whether they're on site or just at the property or the community. You can buy anywhere in the country, it doesn't have to be here. In fact, I don't have anything in California anymore. I try not to have anything in California anymore. Why do we pick an area? Why would you not be in California? Is it landlord friendly or is it tenant friendly? By a lot, right? I mean, it's not even close. But there are other states that are more landlord friendly and not quite as much tenant friendly. So you can, if someone's not paying rent, then you can ultimately evict them. Here, it's a 6-month process. There, it's some places 2-3 weeks. You can get a tenant out. So that's a landlord friendly state, right? That's one of the areas you'd want to be in. Hey, Kelly, I'm going to call you. I'll just say hi to you real quick. So, and an active method here, an active is all of these things here that you have to personally do. If it's a larger scale, you can pay that out. It's operated more like a business, right? So you have low experience required, little to no effect, solid returns, team, not individual. So talk about team for real quick. 'Cause so let's say Keyshawn says, I'm broke, but I know where an 80-unit apartment building is. He's one member of the team. Then he comes to me and he says, yeah, I'd like you to help me asset manage this and we're gonna buy this property together. Okay, great. And then we come over and get Dorothea and she wants to be a partner. And then we can get Andrew and get him as a partner. And then all of us team up. Someone has a specialty in raising funds, raising capital. Someone else has a specialty in managing construction projects. Someone else has a specialty in being patient and dealing with tenants and property managers and that kind of thing, whatever it might be. We all team up and we buy the property together. And that team that I showed you earlier, that's the team that we're buying most of our properties with right now. I could be a completely different team and go buy another property with a different team. But that happens to be where we are right now. Everybody knows it's team or it's a team sport that they always say about multifamily. It's not one individual at a time. Here's a sample. So what I wanted to do is compare really, in some respects, apples to oranges, but it's really single family or being active versus passive. So if you had a home, let's say the total value of these two homes was $600,000. $200,000-$300,000 homes. I know locally there's not a lot of that, right? It doesn't matter the number, it's insignificant. But you own them free and clear, so you have $600,000 sitting there, potentially, right? And you're getting $2,500 a month rent, so $5,000 times 12 is $60,000 in income. Do you think you make $60,000 a year just owning two homes? Definitely not, right? I mean, not even close. I was very conservative here. I said 35% expenses. What are all the, so I put notes up there. What are all the expenses? Who can start and throw out some names of some expenses?
Taxes, insurance.
What?
Taxes and insurance.
Taxes and insurance, big ones, right? So property taxes, property insurance, what else?
Repairs. Wear and tear.
Repairs, wear and tear, it's just stuff because the toilet breaks or roof's going bad. What if a roof goes bad, right? You have your 4 unit, these two houses, just two, that's a $10,000 repair. How long is it gonna take you to make that up? Right? So there's lawn care, there's trash, there's all these other things that can happen. And if you want to be a little bit more passive, you still have to manage your manager, but you can hire a property manager. And one at a time, they're going to hit you up for 8 to 10%, right? They're not going to give you a 4%, for example. Like in some of this stuff that we do on the bigger scale, larger scale, you can get 4% or even less property management fees, 3%, stuff like that. If you have 150 units, something like that. These companies will come in, they're large scale, multifamily property managers, and they will manage that property. And what you try to do is you try to get a property manager that manages 3 other 100-unit buildings. You don't hire a property manager that only manages duplexes typically, or you don't even want one that is normally, let's say you're, do you guys know the difference between an A class and a B class and a C class, like apartments? I'm not getting a lot of, not a lot of yeses. So A class would be something really new and or luxury as well. So an A class, we'd all want to live in the A class, right? Because it's got a pool, it's got a resort style pool in it, it's got a gym, it's got drop boxes for all those Amazon packages you can't stop yourself from buying. It's got all that stuff. That's an A class. And it's likely going to be 25 years old or younger, right? Then a B class might have been an A class at some point, but it's starting to age out. Either the area or the building is getting, it's not modern, it's whatever. They'll sometimes try to buy a B-class building and make it back into an A-class again. Update it all, get stainless appliances in it, put granite in it, and now all of a sudden it can be an A-class. They can bump it back up into that category. So when you're looking for property managers, you don't want an A-class property manager to manage your C-class asset. And vice versa, you don't want a C-class managing your A-class, because they're not used to it, they're not geared for that. They're dealing with a completely different type of resident. So you want to make sure you get the right type of property manager when you're managing that. So on this little example I have, on your $600,000, you're going to make about, let's say you net $39,000 a year actively. That means you're getting the call, the plumbing, the house flooded, the roof's leaking, it's raining outside. I know it does rain every once in a while here. It could be dripping in the middle of the kitchen and you got to do something, then you have to do it. There's no one else, you didn't hire a big company to do it, right? So you have to be actively involved, and that's $39,000. But you could take that same $600,000, put it in at 6% on a preferred return, pretty common preferred return right now. They'll call it a pref, preferred return with a multifamily syndication, earn 6%, and you're gonna make $36,000. So what is your time worth? You're only gonna make $3,000 more on the active one for a year. And that's if your roof doesn't go bad or your house doesn't flood or there's some other major, that's just normal wear and tear, and 35% is pretty common. Again, if you throw a property manager into that, that number's gonna go to 45%, maybe 40, maybe 38%, and you're gonna make less there than you would make here. So why would you not just take your 50 grand or 600 grand in this example and just do that? Why not just do that instead? Are there any arguments against it or for it? You guys throw me some feedback. Argue with me. Debate me. See why it's right or see why it's wrong. I'm okay if you agree with me too, but what's your question? What comes to your mind when you're sitting here as realtors? What do you think about when you see something like that?
Oh, I think that my time is my most valuable asset, really.
Right.
My time means more to me, and if I've got to spend my time fixing a roof as opposed to looking at other properties and evaluating other properties and everything,
right,
I've wasted my time. And that 6%, or the difference of $3,000, is worth it.
Right.
To do that.
So I would agree with that. Would anybody disagree with that? Your time for the course of a year would be worth $3 grand? And again, that's best case scenario. So because I was conservative, a lot of my single families had 40% operating expenses, pretty common. And especially you start having to evict somebody, something like that, you're gonna go through that and it's gonna be a lot more than 35%. So this would actually be more profitable. Why? Because we're not dealing, as a passive investor, we're not dealing with the tenants and the, all this stuff that you have to do with the leaks in the roof. There's a property manager for that, and it's all already built into the system. So when they buy that property, when we buy that property, we're going to pay a 6% preferred return. You guys know you're in our deal in New Mexico, right? So they're going to start getting a 6% preferred return. What we didn't talk about, what we're not going to really get too much into today, it'll be too much into the weeds for today, is that 15 to 18%. What we call IRR. Have any of you guys ever seen the term or delineated IRR for return, internal rate of return? What that just does is that at point of sale, just a real quick overview, at point of sale, let's say we sell this building and we make $1 million. Then we split that with all the investors that invest passively. We split that with the investors that invested actively, like I'm an active investor on that. Then what you made extra After that, because you've been making 6 all along, what you make extra will come out to 15, 18%-ish, depending on what the profit margins are. So you'll make a much higher return. So even if I just doubled this and said, okay, you're only gonna make 12%, now you're making 36 times 2, right? And you did it passively, not actively. Wouldn't that be easier? Yes, go ahead, Emery.
I have 2 questions. Like, do you take as a monthly income, or do you keep it, reinvesting it into property?
Me
As
personally,
an-
or
as individual?
any particular limit? So when you're investing passively, it's called your limited partner, an LP.
Right.
Okay. So on that note, typically on that other slide, I said that it pays out quarterly. So usually you'll get a check, a deposit, auto deposit in your account, a dollar amount, whatever that might be. In the first 6 months, what don't we have typically on a 6-month? The first 6 months you own the property, we don't have a lot of income typically, because that first 6 months is renovations, evicting people, cleaning up the property, doing all the stuff that the other owners didn't do, that should have been doing, possibly. Some cases, these guys retire out. There's been cases where I've been talking to a guy in Oklahoma City. He's 82 or something. He's owned that property 35 years. Guess what? He's not done in at least 20 to take care of anything. That property's falling apart. So sometimes the owners, even though it makes more sense for them, they just get in a groove, they stay in that groove, and they don't bother improving the property, keeping it up to date. So, so the short answer would be, yes, there's income on a regular basis. Just so you know about me real quick, it's not like I don't do that myself. I do both active and passive. I'm in 6 or 7 other deals passive, and I'm in 2 active. So it just depends on what you ultimately want to do. Most people start investing passively before they jump into the active role. But either way, you can see dollar-wise, a lot of times you're better off on the passive one anyway. I can't say that it would happen again now with the way the market is shifting, right? But I made well over 30% on one and over 80% on another one that we fully exited already. We owned both of those. There were about 300 units between the 2 that were in Atlanta.
Then I had another question. Do
Yeah.
you file the income taxes as a group or also as an
Yeah,
entity?
you'll get a K-1 from the business, from each one of these entities that you invest in. So if I have 5 or 6, whatever they might be, you'll get an expense report and profit loss or whatever, your K-1. You'll get that from their tax accountants and whatnot. And you'll just give that to your tax person and they'll do that. So whatever income you earned is the income you earned. So you get taxed accordingly. So, any other questions on that? No, we're good. Kelly, the Zoom world, do you have any questions? No? All right, so people running the investment, who are you betting on? So why would you invest passively? You have to, like, how well do you know the people, or what is their success? There's some things you want to make sure of, because there are instances where people, especially in the last 5 or 6 years, where people did not put enough down payment, or maybe they underestimated the amount of repair, or maybe they did any number of other things wrong, and you put your money into that, and they'll have similar to what, like if you ever invest in the stock market, something called a cash call. That's not an investment you want to be in. You don't want them going, oh, hey, it turned out we didn't know the air conditioning or the water heater system, the boiler was bad, and it's 250 grand that we did not anticipate, and we need to get money from everybody. That's what you don't want. It could happen, and some of these investors have been a little bit too anxious to get a property, so we're going to see some opportunities coming soon. That's why I'm glad there's so many people in the room, because there's going to be some investing opportunities coming where those other people made bad decisions, and they're going to be paying for those bad decisions very soon as the market begins to change. Yeah, you want to put enough down payment. Can you buy units sometimes with 20% down? Yes. 25%, 30%, 40%, it just depends, right? On the property itself and on the operators. So we generally try to not go under 30 or 35%. It's just safer. And we don't ever want to lose somebody's money. Not our own, of course, but no one else's either. Because that would be really painful, and it's really hard to recover from. Because you can start getting a reputation pretty quick. It's a small pool that we all play in. So how real estate syndication works, there's a group of general partners, I showed you our group of general partners before. We're GPs, we share the investment opportunity. Then there's investors, the LPs, let's say everyone here in the room is an LP, a limited partner. You all pull your money together, we buy the property. The GPs manage the property day to day. And then the passive investors get cash flow, either quarterly, sometimes monthly, but it's rare for it to be monthly. And then you also benefit through the tax savings. There's something called accelerated depreciation. I don't want to go too soon in it, but check the slides. Yeah. So an accelerated depreciation. So if we do appliances depreciate at a different rate than the roof on the building?
Yes.
Probably, right? Carpet, probably. Lighting, probably. Any of these other things, there's a list of about 60 or 70 items that we can depreciate differently, pull them out, and we have a company that'll come out and depreciate every asset. They'll do an analysis on the building, and they'll depreciate everything at a much more rapid pace. So, like for example, when Mike jumps in, I'll see Mike hasn't jumped on yet. I'll talk to him. I'll ask him to talk a little bit more about depreciation. But we can depreciate right now. We're anticipating on our 40 units that we bought in New Mexico. We're expecting to depreciate somewhere around 60% of whatever you invested in year one. So if you put $100,000 in and you get to depreciate $60,000, you're probably going to be pretty happy about that, right? Where else can you hide that amount of your income? As active real estate people, we can depreciate that full amount. Talk to your tax person, talk to your tax person, talk to your tax person. Okay. Make sure you qualify in all those arenas, but there's ways to do that. You can depreciate. I know one of the first investments I did, I put in $100,000. We got an $80,000 tax depreciation that year. Now they sold it relatively quickly. It turned out they weren't planning on it, but they got an offer so good they're like, yes, we're going to do that. So we had to give back some of that depreciation, like recapture they call it, right? You guys all know that, probably you're in real estate. So they had to recapture some of that depreciation. It was still a benefit to me, and had we held on to it longer, I would have really saw a huge tax benefit, 80% of what I put in. The accelerated depreciation option is not going to be as significant starting next year as it is now. We can depreciate right now 100% of whatever we're doing there at the building, at the property. Next year it's going to drop down to 60%, or I'm sorry, 80%. And then I'm not sure what the next year is, if it goes back down to, if it goes down on year 3 to 60, but eventually it's going to go out. So if you invest in multifamily syndication for tax purposes, this year is your best year to do that. Next year will not be bad either, but by year 4, if you end up waiting 3 or 4 years, it's going to be less and less of a tax advantage.
So would you say that you have more flexibility on doing depreciations in multifamily than a single family? Or is it about the same?
Yeah, I don't know about flexibility, but you're generally not going to pay someone to come out and depreciate your single-family home. The cost that it would take to do that, to depreciate that one house, it may not make sense. So now if you owned a group of 25 homes, you might pay that guy to come out and do all 25 of your homes and do a rapid depreciation that way. But the dollar amounts are the same, more or less. The percentage is the same, or the years are the same, 27.5 years or whatever it is. You can do that, but with this, it's intentional, and we try to do it on every property. And the more work that you're doing on the property, the more improvement you're doing on the property, the higher that number generally.
Okay.
So, solid returns. So for multifamily, why do multifamily? Over the past 40 years, it's generated the highest returns. And you can see what rents have done, right? We know what rents have done locally. It's been pretty much the same nationally. We've been able to raise rents on some properties, 15 or 20% without even doing the improvements we were planning on doing. So we didn't have to do the appliances, we didn't have to go in. We're going to renovate on average somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a unit, a door. So that's all built into it when we do their capital raise though. So when we're doing all the capital raising, we don't keep asking for money as oh, now we got to put a roof on, or now we got to put a pool in, or redo the pool. That's all raised, initial capital, all in the very beginning. So we have all the money we need for the improvements, all the money we need for rent losses, for anything that we're anticipating, the boiler going out, they are in over 6 figures to fix. There's some stuff it's expensive, and you have to do your inspections and see every single door. You have to look at every single door. You can't not look at a unit, because you just don't know what they're gonna be, what that tenant or what that resident did to the unit. Strong demand again, it's actually growing stronger even since this, but we're in a pretty significant housing shortage now, whether it be single family or apartment living. We don't have enough of it in most areas of the country. Diversification, so the large assets will, like as we said earlier, are professionally managed. We're not doing it. We oversee the manager. So the manager, we have in the 40 unit property, we have a weekly meeting on Zoom. Both 2 property managers have to be on that meeting every week. We talk about, well, what happened with this tenant? Why is there still an RV parked in his space, or whatever it might be, but we oversee the asset manager. We had a wall come down. If you guys are here and you stay for the second portion of this, I'm gonna actually present the 40 units that we bought, so you see what it's like to go from beginning through the end of a purchase with that actual property. And I'll show you and share a little bit, but we had a wall fall down. Like 150 feet of wall. It was a lot. And I'll tell you why. I'll talk to you a little bit more about the other deal, but and who's paying for it. It's not us. So inflation hedge. So if inflation like we're having now, 8.5%, right? So part of that inflation is your rents. Rents increase when inflation is going up. So this protects your capital. And you can see over the years, I didn't pull these numbers. There's a group that you can get this data from. Mike pulled these numbers, but it shows here that multifamily, on average, has earned a much higher rate of return than all these other asset types. Any questions on that? Do you believe, is that believable? Seems like it makes sense? Heard something? Somebody just say I agree. So for me, it's just about continuing to educate yourselves. Realtors, we don't ever get any of this information. Some of us in the room have been in it 20 more years, right? In real estate. So.
Old people.
The 20+ slide.
Yeah. I can sit on the bench there with you. So. I guarantee you in no other real estate office and in no other company are you guys learning about this, because I just started learning about it like 3 or 4 years ago myself. So that's why I'm in all those deals, and that's why I'm going to their events, and I'm educating myself all the time on how to go about doing that. But you know, if you ever get to the point where you're like, I do want to own some multifamily, I want to own 150 units, how do I do that? Well, you can invest passively. We'll have another deal soon. We're talking to a couple of different people now. We may or may not go with, but they want too much at the moment. So we'll see. The guy we bought the 40 units that has another 80. So we might be able to do something there. But I'll bring those up. As opportunities come up, I'll let the office know. So if you want to invest passively, but also if you want to invest actively, you want to be an operator, then you're going to have to really educate yourself and really know all those processes, all those ins and outs, and who you're going to team up with ultimately. Because you're going to need to team up with someone. Some of the loans, you can't get a loan unless you had a loan. Right? So if you want to get a Fannie Mae financing, for example, on 150 doors, unless you've already had Fannie Mae financing before, you can't get it. So how do you solve that problem?
You team up with someone that has.
You team up with someone that has. Right. And now you go on that loan, and then the next one, you can be the person that has, and the other person maybe doesn't have that loan. So you can keep growing your sphere of influence and keep expanding that to where you can ultimately own. I have a friend right now. I don't know if I'm going to get Ronnie in on the call or not, but Ronnie is not even 30 yet, and he's going to close on somewhere around 750 doors this year. He partnered with the right people, right? He's been knee deep in it for a long time. He and I talk regularly every few weeks. But I talk. In fact, I'm going to invest probably in his deal today. He's got 180 unit deal where I'm going to be a limited partner on. I'm sending money to her tomorrow. So I'm going to invest in that deal. It's in, gosh, where is it? I don't even know where it is. It's North Carolina. It's in North Carolina. It's like 160 units or something like that, and I'll probably invest in that deal with him. That deal does not have a built-in preferred return yet, so, but I'll talk a little bit about that, because you guys are not going to understand this part of it unless I really go in detail. Can you lose 50,000 and not go broke, and not go broke? Yes, you can. I mean, technically speaking, we have to say that the money is at risk. It's unlikely, extremely unlikely. We put a lot of things in place to make that not possible, but you can lose all of your money in the stock. Stock can go down. That's a much more likely event. A lot of people are losing, and I know what I've lost in stock the last 90 days. Accredited investor versus non-accredited. You guys know what the difference is there? Who knows? Can you share that? So that,
I mean, it's like you got to make a certain income.
yes. Do you know the certain income though? Do you have a guess? Keyshawn looks like he's not confident over there. How much?
200,000.
Partially right. Yes. What is? Do you know the accreditation status?
You need $1 million in assets, not your personal residence,
Or
or I think it's 200,000 a year.
yeah, that's right. You got half of it. So if you're a married couple, technically you're supposed to have 400,000. Most accredited investors, I got in at a time where I have the net worth. The net worth can get, if you have over $1 million in net worth, you're good. Or if you're making a couple $100,000 a year, which a lot of people in this room do on a very regular basis. If you're making over $200,000 a year, you can be an accredited investor, and you can share. You can do it. You can qualify a couple different ways. Ileana, are you going to make it in today? She's not answering. She doesn't want to answer me. You can qualify again with your equity, or you qualify with your income. And I don't know what direction I was going to go with that. So, accredited investor. So, to be accredited, or you can invest in properties that don't require to be accredited. Like the 40 units we just bought, we did not. That was a 506B offering. I'm going to mess them up. 506A, 506B. But you can join in and invest in stuff that's not accredited, and you don't have to be accredited on those.
What's the benefit of each one of them? Being accredited versus not accredited?
Well, some deals you just won't get in if you're not accredited. So, for example, if we buy a 200-unit apartment, we're not going to want to raise funds from 300 people that are unaccredited. So we're going to want to only deal with 150 people, all accredited, that can come up with more cash typically. It's just at some point management becomes a thing, and you get too many people invested in your deal. It's a lot easier for me to talk to 10 people than it is for me to talk to 85 people. So the accredited versions normally also require higher entry level, higher entry point. Our deal that we did, that I'm going to show you later after we're going to break for lunch in a little bit, that deal will ultimately be all non-accredited, and our minimum invested, or our minimum buy-in was 50. So if you had 50 grand and you were experienced or knowledgeable in real estate, which I would assume all of us are, and you have to have a prior, there's some other tricks to that too. You have to have a prior relationship. So I cannot promote our 40 unit that I'm going to show you guys later. I cannot promote that to people I don't know. I have to have a prior relationship. So because I know you, or I know everyone in the room, I can promote my non-accredited deal to you because I know you have a pre-existing relationship with you. So benefit or disadvantage or advantage to the operator as an accredited file, if we're doing an accredited deal, I can advertise that anywhere. I can put that on Facebook, on YouTube, I can put it on the radio, I can do whatever. I don't have to know you. It's a much easier process, believe me, if we were raising money from accredited folks. It's a much easier process for us. But also we want to get to know, people that we know, we want them in the deal. So whether you're accredited or not, and again, smaller transactions, it's going to be more likely. You have any questions, John? Your investment is illiquid. You don't get to control, unfortunately, when we sell it. So if you have your money tied up in the deal, it's tied up in the deal. You don't really get, you can't call me today and ask me for your money back. So there's, if you want to look at that as a disadvantage, I suppose that's possible. But we haven't seen that happen yet. We haven't had anyone ever do that. But it's possible that someone would come and say, hey, I just ran out of money, I need it for whatever. Occasionally, we can exit somebody and make that happen. It's just not something we talk about a lot. But if for some reason someone really had to do that, we would likely offer that position to someone else. And as long as we found that someone else, we could exit them. So there's some things, but again, the attorneys have to do all that. It's not something we manage. Any questions of Liliana or Kelly? I don't see Nicole on. Assuming the volume is up and it's working. I don't see the little thing here, so I'm not hearing anybody, and they're not unmuting themselves. So,
No, but they're typing.
are they typing? So we have questions.
No questions on my end.
No? I couldn't unmute fast enough. We're gonna have to get a mute button for your boys, Kelly, so that they can control that. I know, right? So Ileana, anything in particular that comes to your mind? No written or verbal? So you can also passively, you can invest passively in your IRA, your Roth, things like that, depending on the deal. It depends on the deal. Some deals are not set up for that, some deals are. So that's the end of this one, and then what we'll do, once we'll break for lunch, and ask any questions, and we can respond to those to everyone when we get back in about 15 minutes. And we'll go over an actual transaction, so you can see from start to finish, why that city, why did we buy there, what the returns are estimated to be, all of that stuff is built into that presentation. A couple of you here have seen that already, but if you want to sit in, you're welcome, of course, and sit in. And then you can see that presentation start to finish. I think you'll probably appreciate that, Andrew, and see kind of where we are. What are your questions, Jessica? I know you've got, I like that you're always thinking, so you got questions.
I don't have
None right now, really? So I answered them all. What would prevent you from investing passively right now? If I had a deal to go today, would there be hesitation? Okay. I just want to make sure that all the questions are being answered. So that's the thing ultimately. I jumped into my first passive deal before I really understood what was the big, to be honest. Yeah, my son said, hey, you need to listen to this guy named Grant Cardone. You guys all know Grant, I'm assuming, right? And Grant, he knows Grant. I don't know if they're friends now, but they know each other. And so I jumped into one of his deals first. And then within 6 months, I was in 2 others. It turned out I really liked it, and again, you can make some good returns. The 2 we've exited so far, I've made over 30% on one and over 80% on the other. Now that's passive. You don't have to do anything for that. And that's way better than I would do on those real estate examples that I showed you guys. So, all right, if no other questions, I will exit this. And then, let's see if I remember how to do that. There we go. And then what we'll do when we get back from our little break here, 15 minutes, Kelly, Ileana will be breaking for about 15. We're gonna have some lunch. You can keep it on if you want the Zoom, but we're gonna go over this deal. And this is one of my partners, Caleb, showing you this transaction. We're gonna go over the 40 units and kind of do a quick presentation. That doesn't take long either, about 20, 30 minutes. We'll be done well before the time. I just want to make sure if you had a lot of questions, we would have enough time to go to 2 o'clock. But we don't really have to go to. Food's there, so dig in, have fun with it, and I'll see you in about 15.
Both of them are PDFs.
Yeah, good point to bring up with everybody.
I didn't know what I should have.
That's okay. Just bring it up. Yeah, if you're thinking that the odds of someone else thinking it, pretty good, right? I met you. Justin?
I feel like I used to see you at
Yes. Yeah, I was still at the car. Well, up until I tore my knee about 2 months ago.
Oh, man. Was that fish meat?
Yeah.
Just that feeling, man. All those problems.
I go into surgery in about 2 weeks. I go into surgery in 9 days.
Yeah, I actually had surgery on my knee this year too.
Really?
Yeah.
You're too young for that.
Seriously, man. It was intense, but we're back now.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I go in and hopefully I'll be able to play.
It's so fun.
You're not getting lunch?
I am, I'm just waiting for them to.
The line?
Yeah. I'm about to ruin my protein. I'm so hungry and I thought, what's that gonna be, salad? This should be good. I'm so hungry.
That's fine.
I just got 32 lots for sale.
32?
Where? 32. In West Lancaster.
Like, how big are the parcels?
They're like, they're around 5,000, I think 5 to 7,000 parcels. They're already in a development. There's sewer, water, everything
saw your
is
seat.
it's on site.
Selling individually or trying to sell all together, right?
I'm gonna try to see if I can sell it all together, but it's sellable individually if you want. Corner carry.
What's the cost?
What's what?
The cost
To
to go in.
go in on the deal possibly, depends on the deal. The one I'm gonna show you is 50. We closed that one about,
What?
we closed that one about 4 months ago.
Oh, so it's already closed?
Yeah, it's one, so that's why I want to show it to everybody, because it's one we've already done. So you can kind of see what we're doing and how we're progressing and, I have 2 others that I could present, so I could have another class,
How you doing, buddy?
sometime, I don't, it'll be a while, because I haven't. I went for surgery about a week, so I'm gonna be gone, I'll be out for a while.
What happened?
Just my knee. So, I'm not gonna be back in Palmdale for but I could do, if I were to do a last minute presentation, I could do it tomorrow. In the morning.
Are you in both of them?
And there's two other deals. I'm not in either of those. My partner Mike is. He's in both of them.
Which one are you in?
I'm in the one that we present.
I'm interested in the one that you're.
More about the non-business than I've ever.
Really?
ever known.
Why, you guys sell your parcels?
Probably both.
2 guys from LA that do 25 million a month.
You could do that.
What?
You could do. Wow.
You know, I was slaving all morning. There's a chicken on the grill this morning before I,
How's my car?
cut your car.
Never my car.
Oh, that's your car. Oh, okay. How's her car?
It's doing well. Had a weird thing, but I ended up buying a truck because of it.
What happened to your red truck?
Hmm?
What happened to your red truck?
A red one? I sold my red one about 6, 8 months ago. But the lid on the convertible was not closing properly. A couple little like earlobe type things that were supposed to fold in.
Yeah.
There's cables that pull them in. One of the cables broke. Not the cable, the mechanism to pull it. So it stayed open.
Okay.
So we couldn't use it as a convertible for a couple weeks until we got it in the shop. When I bought that truck at that shop.
Yeah. Very good.
This is a Chevy dealer, they order the part.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that they when we
Oh, no, right there, over the plastic.
Not in the car.
Yeah.
I would have been too.
I'm going,
Yeah, it's a bad car, I can see his car.
I haven't, what kind of car is it?
What time, Mark?
It's just a Corvette.
Oh, it's just a Corvette.
Oh, it's not like a.
Yeah, it's just a Corvette.
Oh, did you see the day I was showing John? John should have been in here.
Couldn't make it.
She was in the middle. She said she's on the way.
CC, we just broke for lunch, if you can hear me. So we'll get started back again here in about 10 minutes.
The grandma?
She's like, I'm feeding myself.
So yum, they're doing so good. Yeah. Okay. Okay, real quick. The latest, picture.
I did not cook it. It was brought, or Dawn at First American helped us out today. So make sure to give her your home market business.
We have.
Uh-huh. That's Sammy, Samuel. That's Sydney Rose. That's Noah.
Which one you should bring to office?
Probably her. Is she older or was it the parent?
She's a little, but you know, since
Yeah, well, it
she's
wasn't,
grown.
yeah, it wasn't too long when she was this, like this, so that's probably the one that she was
Andrew,
pretty good.
are you going to buy that Chevy?
No one. I didn't want to do it. It's been like a 1 month process. And I don't want to buy it because the market's in the tank, right? So I'm getting whacked on this evaluation. So a $2 million buy-in, 25%. I gotta buy the rest out eventually, right? 20%. They're giving me 5% for free. So initially they started this, you gotta come in 2.5. I don't own the land, I don't own the franchise.
Okay.
So somewhere along the line, they get a 5% up front, so I'll get the raise up front, so I get 500 grand, just a sign-on bonus, right? And then on 6 months, they guarantee me X amount of income. So I told them, I said, I know the market's gonna take shit, and they're paying for my housing, I can live by the beach.
So we're doing some renovation.
You're gonna move?
Playing
It's
around.
close. It's
Yeah,
close.
so all 6
So
of them are
basically, here's the
doing
deal.
really
They
well.
basically came back and said, look, if anything, try us out for 6 months, see if you like this. And in 6 months, if we like you, you get your $500,000 raise. We'll do your 5%.
So much fun.
And at that point, I have 2 years to buy in the rest, right? At the original valuation, and then after 2 years, I can then start to implement out my partner. I would call it us. So I want to go to
So you guys
100%.
own a 40
And
unit?
I'm getting whacked on the 20%. I know I'm getting whacked on 20%. Extraordinarily.
Oh, you guys are in both of them?
before COVID. And right now the market's way down.
Where's the sound?
So it's not like, right, so the way I look at it is, I didn't want to go in, so you're not gonna go in, and then they just have to raise the rate of the So this one is probably gonna be a deal, but, yeah. I think the only benefit to it is that it's kind of one of these deals, where if I buy it at a portion, you know, I take a camera on it, then the next time I can buy without a partner, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because they're like an accredited partner with them, so then at that point, it's like, oh, you're buying a credit still.
That makes sense.
Good, a good healthy meal.
This is really good, too.
I know it's counterintuitive. When the person sits and says, we don't have another steal, right?
Yeah.
But
How are things?
They think it's nice and
there's a lot of benefits. I mean, take everything, take the dollars up front and pour it back in. I think what really caught me was they told me.
You're starting the business or the?
I don't own real estate. No, I own a business, I own a franchise, I own inventory.
Hey, you know, the update on what's
It doesn't
going
matter.
on.
But like the franchise, once you, I guess here's the thought process to letting go my income back in toward the buyer. So instead of having to come out of pocket on taxable dollars, I can come in on the dollars they were gonna pay me anyway, and I'm not paying tax on it. So for me, I work for free, right? And just, and eventually when I sell or, you know, I pay the tax at the very end. I'm not using tax income to buy in and tax income to sell. You know, but also, that's work, because I told them, like, semi-retired now, I go for this, and they're like, are you told them semi-retired? And so I said, I'm not working.
You're gonna become a real estate agent?
That's what happens, right? So I told them, like, semi-retired on this. and so
I've
they're
seen more in like the last
I know.
3 months than I have in the last year.
It is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's weird for me too, though.
Yeah, it's still possible.
Yeah. Back to Chicago.
We don't care. We don't back, we just have construction, so the way I figure it is I'll buy it, if they don't like me, eventually they'll like me.
I'm going to Georgia.
Whatever the tax I pay. Requires another business, or I can use it.
You guys invested in
on that FBC. So I mean, there's a little bit, like, just minus probably, you know?
I'm going to Georgia on the 17th.
Are you? Today we'll get it done. Okay. Today we'll get it done. Is that okay? Yeah, is that okay if we do it before December, everything? Before December 31st? I've been working on it, don't think this is on Wednesday, I'll tell them after.
It was a good drive, and we're hard to feel like, you know, every 5,000 miles, we get used to, you know, use that again.
Again, I have to
So you
legally
down
ask
there?
to the
Well, it's pretty good place.
bungalow.
You might be 3 grand right now, so I'm gonna do that. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll save
I
money.
need certain things.
I think non-nutrition
I don't think you have to ever show up. Right now, they can bring in enough people.
I'm actually going to go.
Okay, okay.
Sewer, everything in it.
Yeah. It's gonna be so exciting.
The last one, so
20th Street West.
the last time I did was Corona and Corona a week or so.
So you take 20,
Last week, but I ran.
we're almost at the end. From Vista and 20. I have the picture.
I had to go speak at one of their offices. It was really far. Like an all-day event.
All right, you guys ready to get started again? I would send it to you if I could, Kelly, I promise. I should have had it delivered to your house, or to your office. Cece, who are you with? Are you with our office? Okay, just wanted to see. I'm missing my friend Nicole. She said she would be on with her whole team today. So, okay. All right, go grab some lunch, Kelly, whatever you got to do. We're gonna play this, I'm gonna kind of stop it and interject when it's appropriate. This is Caleb, one of the partners on the 40 units. This is the 40 units. Super pretty, I love the green paint. That is already not like that though, so I'm gonna go ahead and go through the, see if we get the.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Investor Portal. This is for the Las Cruces 40 portfolio. It's 2 properties, 2 20-unit properties in Las Cruces, New Mexico. We're going to walk through this. This is going to be a very high-level overview of the deal. If any of you have any specific questions, please reach out to us individually. The 2 properties that you see here, this is called N23 currently. We're going to rebrand that to the Missouri Avenue Lofts. And right below it is La Mariana. That's currently the name. We're going to rename that one Telshore Vista. Before we get into the details of the investment, just recall that this is a 506B investment. All investments have inherent risks, and so we ask you to do your own due diligence before investing. This is also not a solicitation for any type of investment as well. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Caleb.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll get real brief into this. Both of these property details are here. They are both 20 units, totaling 40 units, and 2 beds and 2 bath. They are 50% each. We have the price and the year that they are built, as well as some other high-level information. The projected returns that we have here, we're projecting a 16 to 17% IRR. Equity multiple is at 2x, and the projected cash-on-cash return is 7.4.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it real quick right there. There's 3 things that we really didn't go over a lot in detail on the other portion. So does everyone know what these 3 things mean? The IRR, the equity multiple, and the projected cash-on-cash? I guess not. So what was the main question you would have about these things?
What is the acronym of the IRR again?
Internal rate of return. So I gave you that number, that slide, and I told you it was going to be somewhere between 12 and 18% or something. I put on there 14 to 18%. So this one shows, this is our property here. It shows our targeted goal is 16 to 17%. So if we hit that $36,000 return will be double that, right? More than double that. So you'll make more money doing this than you would on an active investment, depending on where that market is heading. One thing about multifamily you can do that you can't do under single family is you can push rents up and increase the value of the multifamily. So if you have 100 units and everybody's renting at $800 a month, it's worth a certain dollar amount, right? It's a business. If we get everybody to $1,100 a month, that asset is no longer worth that old value. It's worth a much, much higher number. You can add $1 million, $2, $3, $4 million to a property just by increasing rent by a couple $100, depending on the size of the unit. We have one right now I'm looking at, the one I'm talking about, I'm going to join with Ronnie probably today, is got a $400 spread from what they're at 800 now, we can get 12. We know for sure we get 11, we're pretty sure we can get 12. So if we can raise the rent by that kind of income, the added value to that 160 units is substantial. So projected, so IRR comes into play with that math. If we only hold the property for 3 years, the IRR is going to be higher. If we have to hold it for 5 years to accomplish our goals, or 7 years to accomplish the goal, then it's going to go down, right? Though, because the years of ownership comes into play with that.
What's the percentage of occupancy?
We're gonna get into occupancy here in a little bit, I think. I'm pretty sure at this point in time it was 1 vacancy.
1 vacancy?
Yeah. Equity multiple, who knows what that is? I'm guessing nobody, but I'm gonna just throw it out there and see. Yeah. So equity, no one's raising your hand, so I gotta guess. So equity multiple is whatever the money is that you put into the property, you're gonna get back. So if you put 100,000 into this deal or 50,000 into this deal, when we exit, you should get double that. You should get 2 times that.
In addition to the IRR?
Right, the IRR is calculated within that. That comes into play, yeah.
Okay.
Good question, though. It does not plus that. The preferred return can be plus that. But your equity multiple, like I said, is 2 times. So if you put in 100, you should get 2 back at the end of the thing. This is if I remember right, it's a 5, oh yeah, 5 right there, that's a 7-year-old. In the 70-30 split, what is that? That's general partner versus limited partner. So the limited partners on this have a 30% equity stake, and the general partners have a 70%. So when we exit eventually and we make that $1 million or some number, whatever it is, the limited partners get their 70% first, and then we keep back 30%. Okay. And the preferred return was 6%, similar to the slides I was showing you earlier.
Sorry, there was LP and what else?
Limited partner, general partner. There's also something called a KP, which is a key principal. A key principal might be, let's say we have a $10 million deal and we're gonna have a $5 million loan. If we don't have net worth of $5 million, we're not getting that loan. So you might need a key principal that's got a bunch of net worth to come to the table with only their net worth. They're not doing much else. And they're gonna come in and be a partner because they can show on their bank statements that they got $5 million net worth. And so that is your net worth qualifier for you to go get the loan. Because your loan, the general partners have to have enough net worth to be at or above what the loan amount is. So we may need a general partner. So if we buy a big property, something 20 million or something, then we're gonna have to have $7, $8, $9 million in net worth between the partners. And if we don't have that, we gotta find a partner that does have that so that we can go to the table and get the loan.
So if an LP were to enter this in with a $50,000 investment, they take a 2-time, assuming everything goes well, right? 2-time multiplier for the original investment, and then they take a 6%. Is it an annual 6% for the preferred return?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna double check that, make sure I'm saying that right, but I think so.
Okay, and so would that be the total dollars assumed to be earned?
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, the 6% pref comes in. So what I was saying earlier about like, when does that money start coming in? Is it 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 months from now? It depends on the property. If you're buying an A-class building that's only 15 years old, within 60 days, you're gonna start getting a check, right? Because it's already, it's already bringing income. But on a C-class asset like this, we're gonna go in, we're gonna renovate, we've already improved the outside of the building, we're gonna start doing the insides, we painted the interior corridors already, and we're gonna put some posters up on the walls and some other things. And as we go, 2, 3, 4, 5 units will be vacant. And as we go, we'll be spending $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 per door, getting those remodeled and then raising the rents on those. So there's a time period that goes by that it just takes some time. On my 16 unit, it took us 8 months to get through all 16 doors. It shouldn't take that long, but we were purposeful about that. It could be faster, but we could take 8 months on this 40 units, and be at the end of 8 months, have all the renovations that we want done, all the rents increased that we wanted increased. There will be a few people that had a 1-year lease agreement that signed that lease agreement 3 days before we closed escrow, right? So we're stuck with them for the 12-month period, whatever the lease term is. So if we're gonna do that, that's a different thing. But those people, we can't raise their rent. So anybody that's month to month, we're gonna raise their rent.
With a preferred return of 6. And on the left, you can see the minimum investments and investor split between the GP and the limited partners as well. Here's the team with NK Development Group and Mark Chappell. We have varying degrees of experience across the board, and they're all listed down below. And I won't get into too much of the nitty-gritties on that. Feel free. We do currently own in Las Cruces, and that property is performing very well, and Mike will actually talk more about that here in a moment. We also have varying properties across Texas, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Casa Grande, Arizona, and Oklahoma. Again, our footprint, just high level, we're across the Midwest, and we really love the New Mexico market, Las Cruces and Albuquerque. Cap Management is going to be managing our property on this offering. They currently manage our 60-unit apartment complex that is just right down the road. We're really excited to work with them on this property. They currently manage about 3,500 units in multifamily, and they're owner-operators as well, which means they're experienced owners and they know what it takes to be an owner. That just more enhances their ability to manage properties correctly. And with that, Mike will take this part away.
Awesome job, Caleb. Thank you so much. So why Las Cruces? When we first bought our last property, the Vista Majestic, a lot of people, I think maybe even Mark included, said, where the hell is Las Cruces, New Mexico? So it's right in the middle of New Mexico, in the second biggest city in New Mexico, Albuquerque being the capital, and about 3 hours south of there. So, reasonable population, 250,000 to when you factor in the whole county. And it's been steady Eddie. This is one of the reasons we really like this market. Even going back to the downturn in 2008, 2012, that market performed solid. There was just steady rent growth. It didn't really feel much of the challenges that the rest of the country, markets like Phoenix and Las Vegas were feeling. It just held on strong. And that's because it's got a fairly diverse workforce, but heavy focus on military, government, healthcare, education. And that's still strong even now, and it's got even more industry moving in. So we really like the market dynamics of it, and some of the employers that are listed on the right. Median income has risen quite a bit, so about 64,000 across the 1 mile radius of our properties. And that's seen about a 6% average income increase from last year. So solid numbers, and as things continue to progress in other states, people move south, people move east from California. New Mexico is a big stopping point, and Las Cruces has been really beneficial there. A little bit more about it, I won't spend too much time, but you can just kind of see lots of entertainment, shopping.
Any questions on any of that so far? You guys get that? So some of the markets, shoot way up like we do, or fall way down like we do. Las Cruces is not that way. It's more of a linear market. It's going to go up a little bit at a time, down a little bit. It's going to fluctuate, but it's not going to collapse like we saw happen in 8, 9, 10, 11. We saw prices drop 65, 70% here. That typically is not going to happen.
Mark, where is that data coming from?
They pull it, there's all sorts of sources. There's one in particular, I'd have to ask Mike specifically on where he got some of this, but we use citydata.com as one of the lead sources for crime and population and all the data that he used here. Almost all of it is on that site. So I'm not sure where he's pulling up all the different data from, but city data is city-data.com. You can find out population growth, income growth, real estate value growth on that site.
So that's based on their data?
A lot of it is polling, not polling data. What do they do when they come out and count everybody? Census. Couldn't think of the word. Census. So a lot of this is census data.
Census and taxes?
Yeah.
Major employment across there, and even the Las Cruces International Airport has additional flights now that some of the bigger airlines are adding on to. So it's starting to become a little bit of a hub. Location-wise, if you haven't been to Las Cruces, so I-25 goes north and south here, so north into Denver, south into El Paso, and then I-10. So it really is this kind of V-shaped area. And what we like is this 25 corridor. So the property I mentioned that we purchased last year, Vista, is right here on the right-hand side or the eastern side of 25. Tell Shore is on the same side, about not even a mile down the road. And Missouri is just on the other side of the highway there, but very close to the highway. So New Mexico State University is just below. But you can see, in a year, we've seen 30% rent growth, 15% increase in operating income at Vista, and we've done little to no renovation on the interiors, all exterior, but we bought the property with below market rents. And the theme is the same with these two. Below market rent was the key. Caleb, you forgot to mention that you found these two off market, by the way, so a solid job there. That's our focus. This is really hard to find number one off market deals that are actually good deals. Caleb was able to source these out, and so while they're on the smaller side at 20 units apiece, they tie in perfectly because we have to turn tenants away all the time. So having CalCap now giving them 40 more units to be able to fill with good potential tenants is what we were looking for. So that really takes a portfolio play into account. Just overall market rents versus occupancy. So a steady increase across the last few years, and again, occupancy has not been an issue. So we were seeing, solid rents here at the 92 number. The rents that we're buying at the deal at today, I want to say the one bedrooms are at $595 and $695 on the two bedrooms. So we have $300 plus in burn off across the whole market. And in our demographic might be a little bit less, but we'll talk a little bit about the business plan, but very solid numbers and solid growth that we're seeing in the marketplace. I mentioned a little bit about the demographic, 68,000 as a overall. This is 2027 projection, 64,000 today, but solid projections across all of the kind of key demographics. So well-educated, lots of households looking for rents, good median income, and solid population base. Those are all the things that we want, which usually drives this number, and that's what we want. We're in the rental business, so we'd like to see increased opportunities for renters. I won't spend too much time on this, there's a lot of data here, but it's again just population growth around Las Cruces. This is a good one. So unrenovated rent comps. So what we want to do is what is our apples to apples comparison today? I mentioned some of the properties. So the two properties down here, 550, and 650 on the 1 and 2 beds, and then Missouri, or MQ3, 525 and 575. And you can see the comps, unrenovated, very similar vintage. These average out to, an average of a little over $250 in the one beds and over $200 on the two beds. So that's our business plan is if we can acquire it and do nothing, which is not our plan, we would have an opportunity just to burn that lost to lease off, right? Which is just to raise the rents to the market. But we're gonna go in and we're gonna renovate a portion of the units and improve the property as a whole, which will make the experience better for the tenants, which will mean better revenue and better bottom line income for us. This one is just our business plan. You can kind of see by unit which ones we're going to renovate. So our goal is to renovate 12 of each of the units. And then on Missouri, we're actually going to be able to add 2 units. So when we did our due diligence, we found kind of some vacant space down below. It was like a main hallway of some kind. We could easily put 2 studio units there. So very rarely can you actually add units to any of the properties that we normally buy. So we see a projection there of 2 additional units that will help us overall raise the rent. So you can see we're trying to be conservative in our projections that even though we have $200+ to go, we're not quite doing that immediately, and even over the long run, it's just a very slow growth of rent. And that keeps our projections conservative. Something we don't always talk about, but it's really critical. As an investor, there is something called cost segregation or bonus depreciation. Simple math is if you're an investor and you invest $100,000, the following year, our goal with this particular property is to issue a K-1 tax one, and that will provide you with a loss on your investment. Essentially meaning you'll still gain positive cash flow over the course of the year, but you will have a loss that you can take against your other real estate-based income. If you don't have a loss in that calendar year, that carries with you for eternity. Check with your CPA, as we don't give legal or tax advice. Lots of numbers here, but this is our 5-year projection, and I think the best thing is to just focus down below. So we have our revenue, we have our expenses. This is our NOI, net operating income, for those of you that may not be familiar with that number or that description. That's basically what's the profit left. We pay our debt service, and then we have cash available to distribute to our investors. So this is our asset management fee. We are offering a 6 pref, so that means a 6% preferred return. You will see that the return in year 1, this is the cash on cash, doesn't say 6, it actually says 4.74. Well, that means we have an accrual of $20,000 in year 1 that gets carried over to year 2. So that's the goal here is we always put our investors first, and you will earn that. If you don't earn it in year 1, then we'll make it up to you in year 2 or 3. And you can see that the property average is well over 7%.
All right, so I'm going to ask about that. You guys understood that one? So if we're not getting the payout on the quarterly basis, Irma, For example, the first quarter, second quarter, you're not getting anything because we're renovating and improving the property, you spend all that money. But in Q3, we start paying out. We're not gonna automatically start paying out at 6%, for example. We'll start paying out at some smaller number. And what they have it here as is 12.74%. And then you'll see the very next year, it goes up over 6%. Because in the end, when the property is sold, we have to make you, or we will make you whole. So we'll pay you out as though we've been making 6% all along.
Across the 5-year projection. Again, any specific details you guys have for us, please reach out, and happy to explain that. High-level business plan, exterior improvements. Again, both properties are in fairly good shape. We have some parking issues. The asphalt for both parking lots are in fairly bad shape, so that's part of our plan. But we plan to spend a little over $500,000, almost $600,000 total between the two properties. Exterior, interior additions, and this is about half of it will be based on the interior improvements. 25 units, so 13 in one and 12 in the other. And just having a little bit of deferred maintenance issues. So the parking lot I mentioned, roof, and then M23 has old AC window units, so we're looking to upgrade those. And that's really it. It's a very basic plan. This is what we like these things. It's simple and it's not so sexy. That's the goal.
It's kind of funny, the 60 unit that we have, the parking lot's actually in worse condition than one of these. And the same insurance provider just canceled our insurance today because of our parking lot. They own the other one, we have the other one, and it's still insured a year later. But they only gave us 3 weeks to get the parking lot done. We've already found new insurance starting in place, but it was kind of interesting that this exact same provider on a parking lot that's actually in better condition than the other parking lot canceled because of the parking lot. So we had to go in and adjust that. And we already have a bid on it. It's going to be done here any minute. I would guess it'll be done by, for sure by the end of November. The parking lot will be done. But in fact, our bid came in at about 40% less than we had budgeted for. So we're pretty happy about the parking lot now.
Keep it simple and produce cash flow. On to the next. Here's a couple pictures of the current. So again, 70s cabinets. They did do a little bit of vinyl flooring across all of the units, actually, the vinyl flooring. Depending on the conditions, we may or may not have to replace some of those. But new vanities, this is kind of what we're looking for. Right now, white and gray, the black handles are kind of in as needed on appliances, but we will, any of the units we do renovate, we will bring these up to this type of finish. I can share the types of details. This is our CapEx plan, our capital improvement plan. We're just calling it a silver finish. You can see kind of the types of things we're doing and then the breakdown that we're going to see. In this particular one, the biggest cost is our additional units I talked about, studio units of $75K. In Telshore, it's about $200K. It's a little bit less. We're not adding anything in, really just making some minor improvements there. I'll talk about this last slide and hand it over to Caleb. So one of the challenges that we face in real estate, and many of you know this, when you kind of have external factors, you have internal factors that affect your projections. So from an external factor, we want to see what is the market going to be doing, what can we project? Nobody has a crystal ball, but we're projecting a 6.3 exit cap in 5 years. That would impact the price per unit that we sold it for, and then projected returns that would impact. So we do have a range, and again, we don't know what the market will do, but we want to present what it could do. Internally, we do have a lot more control, and so operationally, we like to look at break-even occupancy. So where does the occupancy have to drop to in order for us to make debt service and pay our bills? So year one is 70%, and it just gets better from there. So we feel like we have a good amount of cushion going into this.
So for safety reasons, right, I was talking earlier about like everybody, like if you're not really careful, you want to be super conservative on what your numbers are, what your projections are. So if we really think that 80% occupancy would do this number, we're going to drop it down to 70% just to be sure that we have plenty of coverage. And then on this, it's at 70%. What are the odds we're going to be 30% vacant this year? Probably not so good, right? We only have 1 or 2 empty out of 60 units, so we're not even 5 or 10% vacant. But if we could drop to 70%, when you're talking about, you asked about like, what's the safety in the company or the group that you invest in, you want to make sure that that they're not projecting this out at like break-even rates of 90% or 85%, something like that. Because if that's where you break even, they might start doing cash calls and it drops down to 80%. They're going to need some operating capital. They're not going to be getting your checks. So that's why we make sure, and you can as the years go, we're increasing rents, so we can actually absorb up to a 37% vacancy, which is, again, it would be historic and it would be pretty crazy. Can't imagine a situation where it would do that, but it's there. Do you guys understand the cap rate exits and all that? You understood kind of where he's out there, or enough about it for it to make sense to you?
And even if things go wrong or things, the market really changes, we have those factors factored in. I'll hand it over to Caleb to talk about finance.
Awesome, thank you, Mike, that was great. Just really high level on the financing and the capital stack. We are working with a commercial bank. That means that they are a local bank and we are getting some great financing. It is going to be a fixed interest rate. And in today's environment, I'm sure many of you know, it's very volatile. And this is very attractive for us to be able to, one, build a relationship with a local bank as well as get a fixed product. And it is recourse, which just means that we have more skin in the game. You can see on the right, there's the capital stack with our loan proceeds and down payments, and that just goes into the intricacies of that.
Everybody got that? More or less? No questions?
What, on that particular loan, what's the LTV?
It doesn't say that on here? Yeah. Loan to cost, 70%.
Is it 70% or 65%?
What makes you think 65%?
Well, depending on, certain areas, an LTV normally is 65%.
Well, this is the actual loan, so.
Oh, okay.
This is not enough, one thing about these loans and these lenders, they can change their mind almost at any time. It's really difficult. You could be 2 weeks before a close date, and the lender can pull your loan out from under you. So it's really can get quite scary at the end if that can't happen. But I think this is what we closed at ultimately, was 70%.
Here's the timeline. We got these under contract around March 15th. And if you just look down there, we're looking June 30th. We should be scheduled to have documents in the portal where you can start to process those and read them and eventually get them signed.
So documents in the portal means that's when we're starting to take incoming capital from our investors. So when you guys logged in, I don't remember the time frame of that. Do you remember the date?
July, I believe.
It was in July, right?
Yeah.
Sometime. Yeah. So we extended it a couple weeks because there were some things with the loan that created that we were not able to close when we wanted to. It closed a couple weeks after this. But once the portal is open, you can go in, you put it, there's a Q&A in there, you answer all the questions, and then you can deposit your investment in through the portal.
And if you have any questions on those documents, please just let us know. The funding deadline there, after that, we are projecting July 11th for funds to be in.
Since you're talking now, Caleb, did we get funds on July 11th? Can you hear me?
You talking to me?
I am. So,
Hi, Mark, how are you?
Good, good. So I saw you pop in. So how did we do on that timeline?
Oh, I don't recall, sir. I don't remember exactly. I don't remember the details of that.
Seems like we went a couple weeks past, right?
July 25th. No, I recall Mike maybe last week saying something that was around July 25th is when we actually transacted.
Okay. Just curious.
July 11th for funds to be in. Minimum investment on this is $50,000. We are taking cash, self-directed IRAs, solo 401ks, etc. This is a 506B offering, which means that we have to have a pre-existing relationship with you before offering this opportunity to you. Again, down there, timeline, funding would be.
So like we talked about earlier in the other portion, right, I have to have known you first to be able to provide you the offering, and it's supposed to be sophisticated. I couldn't come up with the word, I said experienced, I think earlier. But you have to have some knowledge, some skill, some sophistication around what it means to invest in a real estate deal.
Is the 35 a condition of the 506B, or is the condition of nimble?
The 35, you said what?
The 30, limited to 35 sophisticated investors, right?
Oh.
So is that a condition of the 506B per the SEC, or is that just what you guys chose?
Caleb, you know the answer to that one?
That's the SEC requirement for us to, raise capital from those investors.
Got it. So it's limited to 35 no matter what when you do it this way in the 506B?
That's correct.
Got it. That's something that you know.
July 11th. And if you do plan on using a retirement account, the funding deadline would be a little bit sooner than that, July 6th, just because it usually takes a little bit longer for those, and want to make sure we have enough time to process that. And with that, we want to thank you all, and we are happy to answer any questions that you may have. So appreciate your time, guys, and have a good day.
All right. So
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the.
Not going to start that over. Okay. So Caleb, is there anything that you can think of that you might want to share with the group? I went over this slideshow here with everybody first. This is the one that Mike and I edited some of it, but this is that initial kind of intro to syndication. I added a passive sampling and some of the other stuff, but any things or questions or answers that you think might be helpful to the group if they've never invested. By the way, 2 or 3 of our investors in our LS40 are here in the room as well.
I would say if you can, 2 things. If you can invest in something this year, I would, just because of if you guys know what bonus appreciation is and the cost segregation, this in 2022 is the last year that you can take 100% of that this year, and then next year is going to decrease by 20%. The year after that is another 20% until it's going to fade out. So that can help your tax position. And I'm not a CPA, so there's that disclaimer there. And then lastly, I would always recommend understanding what your why is, because if you're here and you don't know what you want, like what will real estate give you, then you might be wasting your time if you don't know what that why actually is. So if you want to get out of your day job, if you want to take more vacation, if you want to spend more time with your family, figure out what that is, because then that will give you some direction, and then you can make more of a definite answer, if that makes sense.
Okay. Now it's something we talk about in the office a lot, right? Just for selling real estate is something that we want. What's your big why? And we have a lot of coaching and stuff that talks about that. Any questions that come to mind? Kelly, do you have any questions on your end? Yeah, let me know.
Sorry. No, I do not have any questions at all.
Okay. So you understand it. So the next time I call you and say, hey, I need $100,000, you're gonna write me a check?
Yeah, absolutely. Just tell me where to wire it.
All right, I like that. So Kelly, just so you guys know, Kelly sells, and you're gonna correct me when I mess this up, but over 300 homes a year?
Yeah, I'll actually turn my screen on. Yes,
Okay.
I do. Out in Springfield, Missouri, if anybody knows where that's at, we're in the Midwest.
Right, so you might hit 350, or where do you think you're gonna land for the year?
Well, last year we did 352. This year, because we wrote probably 500 offers, but I think we're gonna close around 330, 335.
Does anybody in this room know someone doing more than 330 units? It's not so bad, right? Yeah. Thanks, Kelly. I appreciate your friendship
Thank
and
you.
for jumping in.
Thank you.
We'll definitely talk again soon. So if you guys have, what sort of things come to your mind when you're looking at all this? Does anyone have anything they're like? I joke about, like, would you be willing to write me a check for 50 or 100,000 or some number? But it's also serious, right? At some point, you've got to take action, and some money's got to leave your bank account. So is this something that you'd be willing to do? And if not, why not? And if so, why? You know, I would love to hear both sides of that, just so that we can, you know, I'm fine being done an hour, 5 minutes from now. We don't have to go to 2, but where do you think you are comfort level wise? Or if you had the money in the bank, would you be willing to write a check and do a passive investment?
So I'd like to know more about when you don't have that kind of money in the bank. I always hear that you don't need money to be an investor, you know? And so what about on that end?
Okay, so let's say you don't have $100,000 that you can write me a check tomorrow. Tomorrow, I don't know, today out. So if there's not money there, and you don't have 50 even, then you need to relook at your income level and what you're doing as a realtor and for your career and figure out how to make some more money. But also, you could find a deal. So if you come to me and you say, hey, I have a friend in Texas, or I have a friend in New Mexico, or I have a friend in wherever, that just told me about an 80 unit that they know the guy wants to sell it, and you come to us with the deal, why would we not want to work with you on that? Right, you found the deal, right? So Caleb and I, you know, by the way, I'll throw Caleb under the bus a little bit too. I think he's like 27. He might correct me if I'm wrong, but he's in his 20s. And he came to me with a deal. So he and I are partners on a 16 unit.
Okay.
So if you find the deal, that's the other side of it. You know, again, finding them here in California, I'll probably find another group that wants to buy in California, unless it's a flip opportunity. And flipping in apartments, by the way, guys, is not a 40-day or 90-day hold usually. It's a 2 or 3 year process. Because on a flip on an apartment, you want to get 10, 20, 30, 40% of the units remodeled. Same like what we're doing here, but we're not going to hold it. We're buying with the intent to sell it. And the one I'm talking about right now that's in North Carolina, that's intent to sell. We don't want to hold that property for more than 3 years. So that's a flip, if you want to word it that way. It'll come to time. Time will pass. We're going to try to make it almost. We're going to try to come out just under like A class or A minus type building. It's more or less a low B class building now. It's a nice building. It's in good shape. It just needs to be updated. You know, stuff happens after 25 years, right? So you got to update them and make them new. And the intent of that is to sell it. And the kind of loan that you get, that's super important. Is the kind of loan that you get on the property. That's when you know what the intent. The operator should be telling you anyway, but if the operator's got a short-term bridge loan, they're planning on flipping it. They're not going to hold it because the penalty, prepayment penalty on a bridge loan is far, far less than it is on a traditional loan. You get a 12-year loan on a long-term debt situation, and you try to pay that off in 3 years. The pain that you're going to experience is just quite severe, so you're not going to want to do that. They want almost all of their interest that they would have made when you go to pay it off early. You're going to pay 5 years of interest or something as your prepayment penalty. It's steep. They don't want you paying them off early. So if it's bridge debt, like our loan on, not this one, the loan on the one in North Carolina is a 3-year loan with 2 1-year extensions. So we could go to 5 if we needed to for some reason, but it's designed to be done in 3. What questions do you have in the back? I know you're just combing your hair.
Oh, I was, yeah.
Any questions come to mind?
Not to mind. So you always have these going, any type of deal?
Like an investment opportunity?
Yeah.
There were a couple of years there it was pretty tough. It was tough to buy anything because the same thing that was happening in residential housing was happening in the apartment space. 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 offers on a building, you know, and we think that the building should sell for 10 million, and we look at the numbers and we do all the math, right? And we think 10 million is a good number, we'll buy it for that. Stupid thing will go for 1.3. You know, it'll go for 13 million. It'll go for $2 or $3 or $4 million over what we wanted to pay. So that's why I say there might be some opportunity coming. Those people that way overpaid and just had to have a property, they might be coming back on the market at some point. On this one, Caleb, do we have any interest only, any IO on the 40 units?
15 months.
15 months. So IO, though, Caleb's great at the acronyms. He always says the acronyms, always. But on interest only, why do we want interest only? Well, it increases our income every month, right? We're not paying against the debt. We have to get out of our minds, and what I found I had to get out of my mind is I always wanted to pay off everything early. Right? I want to get X number of houses, pay off all the debt, and live off my income that I was making as a realtor. When really, had I been more focused on the income portion of that and just worried about how much money I could make monthly, I wouldn't have had to live off my income as a realtor. I could have lived off my income on the apartment building.
Mark, is it always advantageous to look at the leverage more and want to leverage more? Or is it also advantageous sometimes to pay off and try to go no debt, if that makes sense?
Try to go no debt? How do you mean?
Well, pay off your loans sooner and kind of like the Dave Ramsey, that we've always heard of.
Well, yeah.
No debt. But when you say you want to have IO, so that means more leverage, right? And so technically, Dave Ramsey was saying that's more risky. So is that better sometimes or all the time compared to, like you said, your old mindset was wanting to have less debt on your rentals?
Yeah, I figured out, at least for me anyway, it might be different for everyone, but when I figured out that if you own 3 units, it doesn't really matter, right? 5 units, it doesn't really matter. You could have interest only on 5 units and it's still not gonna change your life. You have to have larger scale multifamily for it to make sense. So if you have interest only, and we just raised the rent, Mike was saying on that video, about $300 a month, right? So if we get all 40 units up $300 a month, what is that? What's the math on that? I don't think, my phone, 3 times 4, right? So that $12,000, is that $12,000 a month more?
Yeah, it is.
So, or $100,000 and what thousand dollars more a year. What does that do to our valuation on the property? We're buying income property for income. Or at least that's what I'm doing now. If you're looking to flip and make money because you think the market is skyrocketing a year and a half ago and you thought you could sell it in a year and a half, like right now you're selling it, that might be a different look. But if you want income because you want either to retire or to sit on the beach or sit on your front porch on your phone, whatever, not worry about coming into an office, passive income, and the more of it, the better. Right? How much income are we, I have income now from 3 or 4 of the 7 properties. A couple of them are not going to be paying out. One of them is a brand new build, so that brand new build is not going to pay out until probably a couple of years of occupancy. So that's like a 5-year hold, and I'm not going to get any prep, but I'll make 2.5 times my investment when it's all done, probably. So,
and Mark, just for example's sake, and so everyone can understand just how important and how impactful raising that $300 per unit is. If that's an extra $144,000 a year, which would increase the value of the property by $2.4 million alone. So that's not market, but that's forced appreciation that we as operators can leverage. So just by fulfilling the business plan, we can increase that by $2.4 million.
It's funny, I was going to ask you that question, but I didn't want to call you on the carpet. So good that you had that on the ready. So just raising $300 a month on your duplex, is that going to do anything for you? I mean, the other duplex sold, it will put money right now in your pocket, but that duplex sold for the same amount of the other duplex that just sold, the other one that just sold, right? That's all the cost. You're not really raising the value of the property that much by doing that. But here you've raised the value of the property. What'd you say? 2 million?
2.4 on 40 units.
So, and the exit cap, this is the one thing that confuses most people. So the exit cap, so you know what the cap rate is, right? Everybody knows what that one is, at least starting there. Most of you guys are nodding your head yes. Capitalization rate or your rate of return, right? So if we're buying this at a 5 cap, let's say, that's not our exit cap. Our exit cap might be 6.5. So we're assuming that we're gonna sell it to the next person at a higher cap rate, which for us means a lower number, right? Even though we've raised it 2.5 million, the cap is still higher for that would-be buyer, and we still made the margin that we were supposed to make. So it's kind of a reverse relationship there, because the higher the cap, the more the buyer wants to buy it, right? Because, you know, we all want a higher rate of return. So once it's repaired, once the 12 units or the 24 units are all fixed up, and we've added the two other studio apartments, then that property's gonna be worth X, whatever that is. And he didn't discalculate the math, he didn't add in the two studios. So if we add those two studios into that number as well, it's gonna be higher than 2.4 million. And then we'll share that with everybody when it's sold, right? Hopefully, everybody except for you. Any other questions before we get started on the paperwork? You guys know that close. So I'm gonna check out for you guys. I'm on Zoom land. I'm gonna log it off. Thanks for jumping in, Caleb. Tell Mike I missed him.
Will do. Thanks for having us.
See ya.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So how do I log off?
The investment portal, this is for the Las Cruces 40.
Get rid of that. Right. So no other questions. It's been pretty quiet from this. This group has been surprisingly quiet. I expect you guys to really ask a lot of questions or argue with me at some point or debate me at some point, but no, everybody's good. Anna, what do you think?
I think it's very exciting if you understand it well.
Yeah.
Rather than risk, we have to just help the invest. I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah, the risk there is still multifamily. You're still buying multifamily, right? It's not going to go down to zero ever.
All the things has
It's not. Yeah, it's not going to drop, you know, drastically. And people still need to live somewhere. And you know, to your point too earlier about the question about how much money do you need. So, you know, if you bought a $1 million fourplex, how much capital do you need? It's a lot, right? 400,000 probably. We can buy 16 units or 25 units for that amount of capital. And you can raise all of your equity. You do not have to put any of the equity in yourself. So if you found a $10 million building, you could actually buy that $10 million building with none of your own money. That's legal, ethical, it's allowed. Now, if I asked you, did you put any of your own money in your deal, and you said no, there's a fair chance I'm not going to give you any of mine either, right? But if you put, I know guys that have put $50,000 into $10 million deals, but they're owners of the building. It's not a lot. It's a very limited amount of capital. You don't have to do a lot. You do have to come out of pocket with your physical inspections. You do have to come out of pocket with your plumber that goes out and draws all the lines, you know, videos all the lines for you, you know, and all that sort of thing. Thanks for coming, Jess. See ya. So there's all of that, right? I think I'm still on the, I'm not turn it off. So if you guys don't have any questions for me, we can exit and go have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, if you want to see another deal, like the 40 units, it's dissimilar from that, but I do have two deals going right now. We'll talk about those other two. They are syndications, but they're not multifamily. Different opportunities.
You want to talk about another meeting?
No, yeah, I can't do it now, but I could possibly do it tomorrow if I had enough people. I could watch the video with you guys on, my partner has two other deals going, and, but they're not multifamily. One of them's a repurpose of a downtown building, and one of them a new build. They're gonna build like 11 or 14 houses in an area that hasn't had any new construction up in the mountains, so the intent will be to Airbnb them all out.
Oh, okay.
So we'll build them ready to move in.
So the deals that you have, the minimum always is 50, or it varies depending on the deal?
That would be on the low side.
On the low side?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
every once in a great while, you might find somebody that do 25, but it's pretty rare.
okay, how I was saying, like, is there deals like, that requires a minimum of 100, 150, or?
Most of the ones I'm in were over 100 minimum.
over 100 minimum? Oh.
100 or higher.
So basically 50 is the
That's
very,
entry
very
level.
minimum, yeah.
Almost always that's entry level.
Oh, okay.
What time tomorrow?
But
What time?
I don't have, and I don't know that I have anybody that would have an interest, so it'd be early, it'd be in the morning, because I've got to do some work late in the afternoon. But if someone, if you guys texted me or emailed me or something, and said, hey, I would sit in on one more of those, let me know, and I'll do one tomorrow, at like 9 o'clock, or, let's see, 9:30, I could do one at 9:30
No,
maybe tomorrow.
I think tomorrow, because we have classes, we keep busy.
Oh, do we? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll hold those tomorrow, yeah, so.
From 9 to.
Yeah, I could, if you email me, do this, if you are looking, if you would want, at least want to watch a video, you don't have to invest, of course. But if you want to watch the video, I can email you the video, so I have the video, I have the video link, I can send it to you. It's already been
Let's do that.
Yeah, just email me so that I know it, that I have it, and I'll forward that link to you guys.
And so you said that the money that we come in with, that is tied up for 2 to 3 years? Is that on all the deals? Is
Well, it
that-
depends on the deal. Some deals are 5 to 7 year holds, some deals are 10-year holds, some deals are 2-year holds.
Okay,
3 would be on the low side.
on the low side, okay.
Yeah, 3 would be on the low side, so. Any questions? You said, you're pretty quiet too, no questions? No?
I mean, it would be making passive income the whole time.
The whole time, and I showed you where you can make as much passively as you do active. You know, it's not, someone is active, it's just not you.
Yeah.
Something you said too is kind of, well, you didn't say it, kind of alluded to it, but at the end of each term, you can take those invested dollars and then reinvest it in another deal.
Oh, for sure.
Next time down the road. So
Right.
you're still building,
Right.
you know,
I
an
like
income
that.
base.
And like you said, in all that time, you're still collecting passive income during the
Right,
time
just
of the
get-
hold.
You know, just getting deposits into your bank account.
So it's a win-win no matter what.
So we'll start doing that soon on our little 40 unit, you know, we'll start, doing that. On the 60 unit we had there, we got our first check in 3 months. Because it just turned out we were able to raise we were looking to raise like 30 of the units, up $300 a month or something like that, I forget what the numbers were. But we were able to do that without renovating 1 unit. We got all the rents up to the 300 and it was still, and we hadn't renovated anything yet, so, oh shoot, we got all this money in the bank account, as we start paying out early, so of course it made us
Nice.
happy.
That's
We
nice.
start getting money a little bit earlier,
And
so
what
it's a
is-
good surprise.
And what did you guys come in with on the 40, what did everybody have to come in with? Is it the same? for
That
everybody?
that was that deal, I just gave
Sorry.
you, so it was 50, yeah. So we
And all
closed
those
that
numbers
about
just
4,
like-
we closed that about 4 months ago.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so we put our money in July, I think. Yeah, that's when we deposited our money. So, yeah, so, but that's a good, I like it. I know. Yeah, right at the end of July. so-
Yeah, was that the end of
Any questions for me?
Sorry, we got I'm sorry for your loss.
But I'm catching up with all those things.
Most of them, depends on the deal. I'm in 2 right now.
Yeah, no problem.
They only said they had about 4% profit. The first 2 or 3 I was in, were all 8. 4 maybe. Depends on the timing of the market.
Because obviously it's all
Right, projection. It's not a guarantee, thanks. It's a preferred return, and we'll, as long as we sell it for anywhere close to what our intentions are.
And then,
We'll pay that.
Maybe you guys already got your payoff.
When I look at this thing, I pay 100% for the thing and get it done.
Okay.
matter with the market.
They don't have David.
Oh, for sure, that's right, because if the market's increasing
They just started to get your.
as well, then we're, of the 2 that I sold, we sold already in Atlanta. One of them was intended to be a flip, and one was not. We sold them both in about 26 months. So one of them had a short-term loan.
The first is
The other one had a long-term
you
loan.
and I like the
The
wall.
price that we got for it was so high, that just we'll pay the penalties and get that one right. So we still, like I said, we still made 80+% on that deal.
7 years?
Assuming that the market stays flat, relatively reasonable, it doesn't go completely collapse.
That's what I was
All the numbers for this year, you should be able to make 17–18% on your.
Absolutely. Why wouldn't you?
The IRR is the number, it's just one total math. So if we end up holding it for 5 years or 7 years, then IRR should be in that window, 17–18%.
So you're making the monthly dues out of these everything.
That's why it's a text.
So, okay, so you're getting your 6% yearly on the rent.
Right.
And
Based on the
then
income.
when you sell, when you guys sell,
Then you
that's
get
an
an influx
addition.
of 70% of whatever the gain is.
Okay.
So
So then
if we
overall,
sell this one at $2.4 million over what we paid for it, right?
Yeah.
Then, well, now we have X number of dollars in it too, we're putting 400,000 in or whatever it is for
Exactly.
a
No, I mean, like you said, everybody's got.
So, let's say we profit out 2 million, then it's 70% of that.
And I-
Good share with the
I-
investors.
If I'm gonna invest it, I prefer bills.
Yeah.
I'm an investor too, I obviously invest in
Yeah, that's where
deals.
you're
I'm
gonna,
an LP
look,
and a GP.
90% of the
Yeah, I was just confused about, okay, so you
multi-million
get your
billionaires, I mean,
yearly, and then you get your.
That's correct.
Right, you'll get it every quarter once we
Exactly.
start paying out.
There's no
It should
age
stay
cap.
continual. Like both of mine in Atlanta, one of them I got one check. Might have gotten 2 or 3 checks. The other one, I was supposed to get a check, and never did, the whole time we had it, for 26 months, 28 months, whatever it was, because of COVID. The operators were like, oh, that scared the heck out of us, how many people are gonna be paying rent and who's not, and what's gonna happen.
awesome, exciting, you guys.
Push came to shove,
So
rents kept going
exciting,
up.
congratulations.
A lot of people
I'll
didn't
get
pay, we just went into the processes, and got an offer that was so good we couldn't refuse. And I said, so we still pay, so I didn't make any of my 8, that's supposed to be, I never got a check. The whole 2.5.
That's top notch.
I made it back, so I made it all at the same time, and like I said, I made 100%, so I don't think I really care about the 6%, or 8%. I don't know.
It's all about
I'm
money.
excited.
Right.
It's all about money.
Whether I get it today or I get it tomorrow, it was not all that big.
As long as you get it and it's more than you can pay for it,
Right.
be happy.
You're welcome.
I purchased my first investment home in, so it's a condo, but actually, not Vegas. And that's why I was like, interested in this, like you said, right? Just to do it.
Just passive, yeah. Yeah, that doesn't, yeah, because that's why I didn't really want to talk about IRR, about the 18% or the 25% or whatever it might be, because that's market driven too. That's what it's market driven. So we're going to make the 6 pretty easily. We should be able to make 12 to 15 really easily. You know, if you bought a single family home and the market went up 20%, we made 20% on your single family too. So it's all good. But we made that same 20% on an apartment, just a lot more money. It's just, depending on how much dollars you got within it. You know, so.
Yeah, it's just really interesting.
Yeah, so yeah, just learn more about syndication and, you know, attend some events and.
Yeah, that's cool. I am. Like, so do you do like events or like how?
Well, the events are big events, like the company I invested with, a couple of them, they do events 3 or 4 times a year.
Okay.
And I go to those, I go to Houston or wherever they are.
So how do I follow them? Like,
That one would be, I was gonna give away my cup. Did I bring my cup in here? I didn't bring it in here, so I can give away my cup. Multifamily Investors Network, MFIN. If you look up MFIN, they have events at least 3 times a year. Those are only 1 or 1.5 day events. Those are the easy ones, they're super affordable. And Ben and Ferris will run those, and they're good events. All of them are gonna have reasons for having the event, right?
Yeah, of course.
They'll sell you something or not, and they'll also talk to you about deals, you know, when it's appropriate. Because they can't just give it to everybody. They can't offer like, even if you pay to come to their event, they can't pitch a deal to you because they don't know if you're accredited or not.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll look into this.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
thanks
all
so
right,
much.
all right, enjoy. We'll have some deals coming up soon.
I did this for you. 32 units, Rancho Vista.
These are your vacant lots?
Yes.
Yeah. This is Rancho Vista?
No.
This is Rancho.
I don't think it's on.
Edgemont, Brookdale.
Okay, that's on 20th.
So if you have them,
Brookdale.
you have them all together now, you're gonna sell them like that?
I can sell an individual, or I can sell them, I can sell.
Talk to, I would tell you right now, talk to Sam Morfane.
Yeah, I was gonna do that. But
Sam's got
I
some.
wanted to give you.
Yeah, Sam's got some other deals. I can't focus my attention on today's hour. I can't do it right now, especially the market shifting, but these are all residential, right? You can't do, these are ones you can't do multifamily.
Thank you, Mark.
I have a.
Thank you. All right, see you later.
I have a multi family coming up.
Okay, multifamily I look at.
Okay.
The single family, talk to Sam, because he's got some other, he's
I got,
developing like 3 other parcels right now.
I'm gonna convert it into multifamily, and then I have another lot next door that I'm gonna do multifamily. I'm working on those three.
Okay. Yes, Anna?
That would be excellent. When do you gonna have?
Okay, Senor Davis?
I don't know, because
It's your turn.
I didn't want
Yeah.
to say to everybody, I'm going to take the next 3 weeks off. But I'm going to take the next 3 weeks off.
I missed it today.
Yeah, I'm going for surgery.
Yeah, I got things that I need to add to it.
So I go in for surgery next week, and I don't plan on coming.
Let me look at it, I have
I'll
my,
get the surgery, relax, chill at home. I'll work from home, but I'm not going to come into the office, so, yeah, I want to
But
stay
you want
home.
to claim again, right?
Yeah, I'll do this again, because ultimately it's procuring new people and investing in new people. Were you thinking of trying to come today? Can you come make it, or?
No, I missed the message actually.
Oh, really? Yeah, you know, obviously I can do one-on-ones, too, we can talk. If you want to, because, I don't know, actually, but this is my partner I just had on the screen. I'll